What if I told you the next 60 minutes could pull you out of autopilot mode and put you back in control of your life? Not years, not decades, just this 1 hour. But here's the catch. Most people will never use it. You're about to see why. You wake up, scroll, eat, work, scroll again, sleep, and repeat. The same conversations, the same problems, that itch in your chest telling you there's more, but no roadmap in sight. You've seen those people, always growing, always glowing. They don't seem smarter. They're not luckier. They're just using one advantage differently. They never stopped learning. But not school learning. I mean the kind of learning that rewires how you think, live, earn, and evolve. This isn't about reading more books or downloading a new app. This is about flipping your brain's internal switch from survival mode to growth mode. In the next hour, I'll show you the 15 moves smart learners make that others don't. Why most adults stop growing after 25, and how to restart. The mindset reset that top performers use without even realizing it. And the one habit that can make you unrecognizable in a year. Stay until the end, because the last strategy isn't just effective, it's irreversible. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Number 1, you've been trained to stop growing. You weren't born to feel stuck, but somewhere along the way, they taught you to stop reaching. Not in words, but in expectations. Pass the test, get the job, stay in line. Now look around. Most people aren't lazy. They're trained to stop climbing once the ladder feels safe. Here's the truth most people never question. You were rewarded for following instructions, not asking better questions. Praised for memorizing facts, not for thinking differently. By the time you left school, the system had already done its job. You'd learned how not to fail, but you never really learned how to grow. And real growth? It's inconvenient. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. It demands that you break rules you never even realized you agreed to. Let's break 3 of them right now. First, growth ends when school ends. Wrong. That's just where their responsibility ended. But yours began. The minute no one is grading your effort anymore, that's when self-education starts. Top performers don't just learn new facts, they learn how to learn. They train curiosity like a muscle, because it's the only tool that never expires. Second, be realistic. That phrase, it's not advice, it's a cage. Be realistic is usually said by someone who gave up on what was possible a long time ago. You know who doesn't say that? People who are building things, creating businesses, changing careers, writing their second book at age 57. Realistic doesn't build the future, relentless does. Third, expertise belongs to the few. Nope. Expertise is just obsession over time. If you're willing to get weirdly consistent about a skill, writing, coaching, problem solving, building systems, whatever it is, you'll lap the naturals who just coast. Don't believe it? Go read about anyone great. They weren't chosen. They chose to keep going when everyone else plateaued. So here's the question. No one asked you when you were 18. Now that no one's watching, what are you still learning? If the answer is nothing, don't panic. But don't lie to yourself either. Because from this point on, growth is optional. But so is staying small. Tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself this. What belief am I still following that's keeping me average? And write it down. Not in your notes app, on paper. Because once you see it written, you can't unsee it. Growth doesn't start with motivation. It starts with discomfort. And if this hit you in the gut, congrats. That means your real education just restarted. Let's move to the next one. Number 2, you don't need more time, you need better focus. Everyone says the same thing. I wish I had more time. But here's the truth. You don't need more hours in your day. You need fewer leaks in your focus. Because time isn't the problem. Attention is. You can scroll for 4 hours and feel like you did nothing. But you can focus for 40 minutes and change your entire week. The difference isn't time. It's direction. We live in a world where your focus is a product. Every ping, every notification, every headline, it's all designed to pull your brain into someone else's agenda. And it's working. Most people can't hold a thought for more than 10 seconds without switching. They call it multitasking. But really, it's just fragmentation. If you can't sit with your own thoughts, you'll never build a life that's truly yours. Let's get real for a second. You don't need a productivity app. You need to get honest about where your energy goes when no one's watching. Let me give you 3 brutal truths about focus most people avoid. First, focus is a decision, not a feeling. You don't wait to feel ready to do the work. You choose to shut the door, silence the noise, and lock in. Discipline isn't about motivation. It's about making fewer decisions, more consistently. Second, your distractions are perfectly designed. Every app on your phone is smarter than you think. They study your behavior, your swipes, your patterns, and they don't care about your goals. You're not weak. You're just outnumbered. So stop relying on willpower. Use design. Move the apps. Turn off notifications. Block the temptations. Set your environment to protect your attention like your future depends on it, because it does. Third, mental clutter kills clarity. If your brain is juggling 15 open loops, texts to reply to, unfinished tasks, vague goals, then focus becomes impossible. Write it all down. Clear the fog. Create space to think. Because a focused mind is a powerful mind. Here's the takeaway. You already have the hours. You just haven't been using them like they matter. Tonight, don't ask, what should I do tomorrow? Ask, what will I protect tomorrow? Protect 1 hour like it's sacred. Turn off your phone. Pick one task. Give it your full attention. That 1 hour will outperform your average 8. You don't need more time. You need fewer excuses, fewer distractions, fewer tabs open, both on your laptop and in your head. Focus isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters, fully. Let's talk about the new wealth. Number 3, learning is the new compounding asset. We all know the power of compound interest. Invest money early. Let it grow. 10 years later, it snowballs. But here's the secret no one teaches in school. Learning works the same way. Knowledge compounds. But only when you stay in the game long enough to let it. Every new skill you learn connects to the last. Every book, conversation, mistake, or insight, it all starts stacking. You go from beginner to unstoppable. Not by doing more, but by letting your past learning work for you. Think of it like this. When you learn a new concept today, it might seem random. But 2 years from now, it becomes the missing puzzle piece that makes everything click. And the person who kept learning while others stagnated, that person walks into rooms with a different level of confidence because they're not guessing anymore. They're building from experience. Now here's the difference between average and exponential. Average learners stop once they know enough to get by. Exponential learners, they treat learning like an investment account. A little bit every day, even when it's boring. Because they know growth doesn't come from intensity. It comes from consistency. Let me give you 3 ways learning compounds over time. First, skills stack. Learn how to write, then how to sell, then how to speak. Suddenly, you're not just a writer, you're a communicator, a marketer, a leader. Number 4, your environment is sabotaging you. You think it's your willpower, but it's not. It's your environment. You keep blaming yourself for falling behind, when the truth is you're just trying to grow in soil that wasn't built for growth. You can't become your future self in a room that only knows your past. Look around. What fills your screen? Who gets your time? What noise surrounds your mind when you're trying to be better? You are not weak. You're just surrounded by subtle sabotage. Here's how it works. You try to focus, your phone buzzes. You try to eat healthy, your kitchen's filled with junk. You try to think big, but every person around you settles for small. And you wonder why you keep restarting. It's not that you're not capable. It's that you're swimming upstream while calling it laziness. Let's break this down into 3 simple truths. First, your space shapes your state. If your workspace is cluttered, so is your thinking. If your room feels chaotic, your brain mirrors it. Clean space, clear mind. And you don't need a Pinterest desk setup. You just need to stop living in distraction and calling it normal. Second, your circle predicts your ceiling. If everyone around you avoids growth, guess what feels normal? Stagnation. But when you're around learners, creators, builders, growth becomes contagious. You don't need to cut people off, but you do need to stop shrinking just to fit in. Third, your inputs decide your output. What you read, what you watch, what you listen to. It all stacks, quietly, until it becomes your beliefs. If every video you watch is about drama, don't be surprised when your life feels like one. Protect your feed like you protect your future. Here's the hard truth. You can't hate your habits while staying loyal to the environment that built them. Change won't stick if your surroundings still feed your old self. So here's a challenge. Tonight, change one thing in your environment that silently pulls you off track. Delete one app. Move your phone charger out of your bedroom. Put your journal where your remote used to be. Tiny change, massive ripple. Because willpower fades, but structure lasts. You don't need to be more disciplined. You need fewer distractions. And once your environment stops dragging you down, you'll rise faster than you thought possible. What if I told you the thing you're skipping, reflection, is the missing link in your growth? Let's talk about it. Number 5, reflection is the missing link. Everyone's chasing the next tip, the next hack, the next big move. But here's what most people never do. Stop, pause, look back, not to dwell, but to learn. Because growth doesn't just come from experience. It comes from examined experience. You're not just tired because you've done too much. You're tired because you've done too much without asking yourself why. Reflection is the multiplier. It turns confusion into clarity. It turns action into wisdom. And it turns a random week into a lesson that lasts for life. Here's the thing. You already know more than you think. But knowing isn't enough. You have to extract the insight. 3 simple questions can change everything. First, what worked? Too many people only analyze their failures. But your wins have patterns too. Track them, repeat them, build around them. Second, what didn't work? Not as punishment, as data. Every failed attempt carries a message. If you ignore it, you repeat it. If you study it, you upgrade. Third, what's next? Growth without direction is noise. You don't need a 5-year plan. You just need to know the next right move and why it matters to you. Think of reflection like sharpening your blade. You can swing all day, but if your edge is dull, you're just exhausting yourself. And here's the truth. Most people stay stuck not because they're lazy, but because they never stop to learn from their own life. So here's your challenge. Before the day ends, sit in silence for just 5 minutes. Ask those 3 questions. What worked? What didn't? What's next? Write the answers, not for performance, for awareness. Because when you reflect, you reconnect to yourself, to your progress, to your purpose. And with clarity comes power. Next, want to remember what you've learned? There's only one way. Teach it. Number 6, teach what you learn or you'll forget it. You think learning ends when you understand something, but it doesn't. It ends when you can explain it, clearly, simply, and confidently. If you don't teach it, you'll forget it. Period. That insight you had last week is gone. That breakthrough from the book you read, buried under distractions. And it's not because you're forgetful. It's because your brain only keeps what it uses. Here's the truth. Learning isn't just consumption. It's creation. If you want something to stick, don't just highlight it. Say it out loud. Write about it. Share it with someone. Not to impress, but to imprint. Teaching activates your brain on every level. It forces clarity. It exposes the gaps. It transforms you from a collector of ideas into someone who embodies them. Think about this. If you can't explain a concept in simple terms, you don't own it yet. You're just renting it. Let me give you 3 ways to turn learning into legacy. First, teach to remember. Start a voice memo, write a short post, talk about it with a friend. The second you teach, you deepen the imprint. It becomes part of you, not just something you heard once. Second, teach to connect. When you share what you're learning, you find people on the same path. You upgrade your circle, one conversation at a time, and learning becomes a bridge, not a silo. Third, teach to evolve. As you explain things, you'll realize what you actually believe, what matters, what needs refining. Teaching is how you meet your next level of thinking. And here's the bonus. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be one step ahead. That's enough to help someone. And helping someone cements it in you. So here's your challenge. What's one thing you've learned today? Just one. And how can you explain it to someone within the next 24 hours? It could be a tweet, a journal entry, a 2-minute call. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you stop being a vault of forgotten ideas and start being a transmitter of transformation. Because knowledge isn't power. Shared knowledge is. Now let's take it even deeper. If information isn't power, what is? Action. Let's go there next. Number 7. Information isn't power. Action is. You've heard the phrase a million times. Knowledge is power. But let's be honest. If that were true, we'd all be rich, healthy, and fulfilled by now. We're drowning in knowledge. Podcasts, courses, books, tips, threads, life hacks, but nothing changes. Until you move. Information isn't power. Action is. Knowing how to get in shape doesn't build muscle. Knowing how to save money doesn't grow your bank account. Knowing how to heal doesn't fix your mindset. Only action bridges the gap between potential and results. And here's what no one tells you. The more you consume without action, the more stuck you feel. Because your brain tricks you into thinking you're progressing, when all you've done is gather more content. That creates a false sense of growth, a mental bloating. You feel full but undernourished. Let's break this pattern. Here are 3 truths about action that most learners miss. First, clarity comes from doing, not thinking. You won't figure it all out in your head. You have to build the thing. Say the words, try the step, fail, adjust, repeat. Clarity lives on the other side of action. Second, tiny steps beat big intentions. Waiting for the perfect moment? That moment doesn't exist. Start messy. Start scared. Just don't wait, because momentum doesn't come from confidence. It creates it. Third, your brain respects evidence. Every time you follow through, even on a small promise, you're teaching your mind. I am someone who does what I say. That's how identity shifts. Not from thinking differently, but from behaving differently, consistently. So here's the challenge. Pick one piece of knowledge you've been sitting on, that course you haven't finished, that habit you've been meaning to start, that conversation you've been avoiding. Do one thing today, not tomorrow, not when life slows down. Today. Because action doesn't need permission. It just needs a window. You don't rise because you know more. You rise because you do more with what you know. Next, let's flip a myth. You weren't born curious, or not. Curiosity isn't a trait, it's a skill. Let's train it. Number 8, curiosity is a skill, not a trait. They told you some people are just naturally curious, as if curiosity is something you're born with, like eye color or height. They were wrong. Curiosity isn't a personality trait, it's a muscle, and most people stopped using it a long time ago. You weren't born bored. You were trained to stop asking questions, to stop wondering, to stop exploring, and the worst part, you started believing it was just who you are, that you're not curious, that you're not a learner, that it's too late. But here's the truth. Curiosity is always available. You just have to wake it up, and it starts with this one powerful shift. Stop needing all the answers. Start falling in love with the questions. Because the people who grow fastest aren't the ones with the most knowledge. They're the ones who ask better questions longer than anyone else. Let me give you 3 ways to build curiosity like a skill. First, interrupt autopilot. Next time you hear something you've heard before, don't dismiss it. Ask, what am I missing here? What's a deeper layer to this? The moment you stop assuming you know it all, you open the door to something new. Second, chase the why, not just the what. Don't just copy what successful people do. Understand why they do it. That's where the learning lives. Surface knowledge fades. Deep understanding sticks. Third, question yourself, your beliefs, your habits, your routines. Ask, who taught me this? Is this still serving me? Do I actually believe this, or have I just never questioned it? Self-directed learners aren't just curious about the world. They're curious about themselves. And that's where real growth begins. So here's your challenge. Start a curiosity journal. Write down one question every day that challenges what you think you know. Not to get the right answer, but to stretch your mind, to stay uncomfortable, and to keep growing. Because curiosity isn't about having answers. It's about refusing to stay stuck. And when you train your brain to keep asking, what if, you stop living like your best days are behind you and start seeing how much is still ahead. Next, you don't have to do this alone. In fact, if you're trying to grow in isolation, you're slowing yourself down. Because learning, it isn't a solo sport. Number 9. Learning isn't a solo sport. You're told to hustle in silence, grind in private, do it alone, but that's not how growth works. That's how burnout happens. Because learning, real, lasting learning, was never meant to be a solo mission. Look at anyone evolving fast. They're not isolated. They're in conversation. They're getting feedback. They're surrounding themselves with people who stretch their thinking. Learning isn't a solo sport. It's a contact game. And every interaction either sharpens you or dulls you. You grow faster when you stop hiding your questions. You grow deeper when you're not afraid to look like a beginner. You grow stronger when your circle is rooting for your evolution, not your comfort. Let's break it down into 3 truths. First, you need mirrors. People who reflect your blind spots. People who say, I hear what you're saying, but here's what I'm seeing. That kind of feedback hurts, but it's priceless. Second, you need expanders, people ahead of you. Not to copy, but to prove what's possible. The right environment doesn't just support you, it pulls you forward. Third, you need learners around you, not just teachers, not just experts, fellow strugglers, people in the trenches. Because learning in community builds momentum. You're not the only one falling, and that changes everything. You don't need a massive network. You just need a few real ones. People you can talk growth with. People who don't think your ambition is too much. People who challenge you to apply what you're learning. So here's your challenge. Reach out to one person this week who inspires you. Send them a message. Ask them what they're learning. Or tell them what you're working on. Start a new conversation. Plant a new seed. Because proximity matters. And so does vulnerability. The fastest way to grow? Learn out loud. Next, you want to learn faster, make better decisions, see patterns before others? You need mental models. Let's break that down. Number 10, mental models are learning shortcuts. Ever notice how some people just get it faster? They make better decisions. They connect the dots quicker. They stay calm when things go sideways. It's not luck. It's not IQ, it's mental models. Mental models are learning shortcuts. They're the invisible rules of how the world works, the patterns that simplify complexity. And once you start using them, you stop reacting blindly and start thinking clearly. Most people walk through life solving every problem from scratch. But high-level thinkers? They've built a toolbox. They don't just respond, they recognize. They say, oh, this is a leverage problem. Or, this is a compounding opportunity. Or, this looks urgent, but it's not important. That's the power of models. They filter noise, they save time, they level up your thinking without adding more information. Here are 3 foundational mental models that can change how you learn and live. First, the 80-20 rule. 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. So stop trying to do everything. Start finding the few things that move the needle. Then do them relentlessly. Second, inversion. Instead of asking, "How do I succeed?" ask, "How do I make sure I fail?" Then avoid those things. Sometimes avoiding stupidity is smarter than chasing brilliance. Third, second-order thinking. Don't just ask, "What happens if I do this?" Ask, "And then what? What are the consequences after the consequences?" This is how you think long-term in a short-term world. Mental models don't make you a genius. They make you effective. They remove the guesswork. They give your decisions structure. And they help you stop drowning in information and start swimming in insight. So here's your challenge. Choose one mental model today, just one. Study it. Use it in a real-life decision. See how it shifts your perspective. Then add another and another. Because the more models you stack, the less overwhelmed you feel, and the more powerful your thinking becomes. Next up, let's talk about identity. Because if you keep growing your mind, but still see yourself as who you used to be, you'll sabotage everything. Your identity is always under construction. Let's rebuild it. Number 11. Your identity is always under construction. Most people don't fail because they lack skill. They fail because they keep acting like the old version of themselves. You can change your habits, read the books, level up your mindset, but if your identity stays the same, you'll always snap back. Your identity is always under construction. And if you're not the one building it, someone else is. Here's the truth. You are not who you were 5 years ago. You're not even who you were 5 months ago. But if you keep telling the same story about yourself, "I'm bad with money. I'm not consistent. I'm just not that type of person," then guess what? You're anchoring yourself to a past that no longer fits. Growth requires an identity upgrade. Not fake affirmations, not pretending, but intentional reconstruction. Let's break this down. First, your actions shape your identity, not your thoughts, not your intentions, your actions. Every time you do the thing you thought you weren't capable of, you cast a new vote for the person you're becoming. Second, your language locks you in. Words like always and never and just the way I am are identity traps. If you keep saying it, you'll keep living it. So speak in progress, not permanence. Say, "I'm learning consistency." Not, "I'm just not consistent." Third, your identity is permission-based, and you hold the pen. You don't need trauma or a breakdown to reinvent yourself. You can decide today that you are someone who learns, someone who builds, someone who doesn't settle. Let's stop waiting for some external moment to redefine us. Instead, let's choose a new version, based on values, not vibes. Here's your challenge. Write this sentence and finish it truthfully. "The version of me I'm done being is." Then write another. "The version of me I'm becoming is." Say it out loud. Write it somewhere you can see it. Then act like it's already true. Because identity isn't about who you think you are. It's about who you prove you are through repetition. And once your identity shifts, your habits will follow. Next, think talent is everything? Think again. Because in the long run, skill stacking beats talent every time. Number 12, skill stacking beats talent every time. You've been told talent wins, that some people are just born with it. But that's only part of the story. Because raw talent without range is fragile. Skill stacking, that's the real superpower, and anyone can build it. Here's what that means. Instead of obsessing over being world-class at one thing, you become dangerously good at a few complementary things. Each one supports the others. Each one multiplies your value. Example, you're a good writer. Add public speaking. Now you're not just a writer, you're a communicator. Add storytelling. Now you can move people emotionally. Add marketing. Now you can make money with your message. You didn't become a genius. You just built a stack that others don't have. This is how creators, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, this is how they accelerate. They stack. They don't wait for talent. They build leverage. Here's why this works so well. First, your uniqueness lives in the overlap. You don't need to be the best in the world at any one thing, but be in the top 20% at 3 things. The combination makes you irreplaceable. Second, stacked skills create freedom. The more tools you have, the more paths open up. You can pivot, adapt, evolve. You're not stuck in one lane hoping the world doesn't change. You're flexible, and the flexible survive. Third, it kills the perfection excuse. You don't need to master everything. You just need to start stacking. One skill at a time, done, perfect. Practice greater than potential. So here's your challenge. List out your top 3 current skills. Then ask, what's one skill that would amplify all of them? Start learning it today, not to become the best, but to become unmatched in your lane. Because in the end, talent is just potential. But skill stacking, that's momentum. Next, let's zoom in on something most people ignore. But it defines every choice you make, your emotional growth. Because if your heart can't grow, your mind won't matter. You're not waiting on life. Life's been waiting on you. Let's pause for just a second. Think back to the very beginning of this hour. Something about the title pulled you in. Something inside whispered, this might be it. This might be what I've been needing. Now here you are, 15 strategies later. But this isn't the end of the video. This is the beginning of your real life. Because here's the uncomfortable truth no one says out loud. Information doesn't change your life. Identity does. And today, this hour, your identity just got shaken up. You've been reminded of who you could be. Not the distracted version, not the tired version, the sharp, focused, evolving version of you. So now you have a decision. Let this video become one more thing you almost used. Or you can do something different. You can do something rare. You can stop being a content consumer and become a content creator. Not for social media, for yourself. Here's your challenge. Open your notes app or grab a notebook. Write down 3 things. 1. The moment in this video that hit you the hardest. 2. The one action you will take in the next 12 hours, no matter how small. 3. A sentence that starts with, from this moment on, I will no longer tolerate. Because that's the real shift. Not more knowledge, more standards. And here's what makes this call to action different. I'm not asking you to subscribe. I'm asking you to change your operating system. Because algorithms won't transform you, action will. So if you're ready to stop watching other people grow and start documenting your own growth story, then this hour wasn't a video. It was your first chapter. And trust me, the future you just got a little closer. Because you showed up. Let that be your starting point. Now go make the rest of your life unrecognizable.
Step 16. Your calendar reveals your true values. We all say what matters to us. Family comes first. My health is everything. I want to grow. I want to evolve. But when you zoom in not on their words, but on their calendar, it tells a very different story. The reality is, your calendar is a mirror, and most people can't look into it for long without flinching. Why? Because it exposes the gap between their intentions and their actions. You say you want to learn, but there's no time blocked for it. You say you're tired of being broke, but your week is filled with passive entertainment instead of building. Skills, you claim you value peace, but every open hour is stuffed with noise. Your time is not just a schedule, it's your silent confession. It's what you're truly committed to, whether you admit it or not. Look at your past week. What did you fight for? What did you protect? What did you allow to constantly interrupt? If there's no space on your calendar for what you claim matters, then you're not building a better life, you're lying to yourself with conviction. And here's the kicker. You don't need to overhaul your entire week overnight. You just need to carve out 1 hour a day that aligns with the person you say you want to become. Because nothing changes until your priorities start showing up in your schedule. Step 17. You become what you revisit. Not what you glimpse. There's a lie we've been sold by the age of instant everything that one inspirational quote, one amazing book, or one viral video will somehow transform you. But that's not how real change happens. Your brain doesn't rewire from one spark. It's not the lesson that changes you. It's not the lesson that changes you. It's the repetition of that lesson until it reshapes your identity. Think about it. What do you revisit the most? Is it the noise on your feed? The fear in your head? The doubt in your voice? Because those repetitions matter. And if you're revisiting nonsense, you will become nonsense. But revisit power, and you become powerful. The people who are truly evolving aren't the ones chasing the next breakthrough. They ones repeating the right breakthrough. They rewatch the same video 10 times. They reread the same life-changing chapter weekly. They let the truth sink in so deeply that it shifts their inner compass. You don't become better because you discover something new. You become better when the right message hits you again and again until you start living like it's true. So stop being addicted to novelty. Be addicted to depth. Don't just consume and move on. Revisit what rewires you, and revisit it until it becomes second nature. That's where transformation hides in the repetition you keep resisting. Step 18. Your self-talk is the architect of your identity. No voice has shaped your life more than your own. Not your parents, not your friends, not your mentors. Your inner dialogue, the words you silently repeat to yourself day after day, is the real architect of your identity. Most people walk through life unaware that their internal monologue is not a narrator, it's a creator. You say, "I'm just not confident," and your brain responds, "Got it. We'll keep shrinking." You say, "I can't stay consistent," and your actions fall right in line. That voice doesn't just describe you, it programs you. And worst of all, we speak to ourselves in ways we'd never speak to a friend. We tear ourselves down, call ourselves names, rehearse our failures, and then wonder why nothing changes. Here's the shift. What if your voice became your greatest coach? What if your self-talk was laced with compassion and challenge instead of criticism? What if instead of saying, "I always mess up," you said, "I'm learning how to respond better under pressure"? One word: shift. Massive trajectory shift. Because the way you speak to yourself when no one's watching, that's the version of you that's growing in silence. If you want to change your life, start by changing your language. Not fake affirmations, just conscious, honest, uplifting truth. Train that voice. Mold it, because eventually, it becomes the loudest reality you live in. Step 19. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it's a result. We romanticize confidence like it's some magical elixir. As if one day you'll wake up overflowing with courage, ready to take the leap. But that day never comes. Why? Because confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you earn after you move. Every confident person you see wasn't confident before they started. They became confident because they started anyway. They stumbled forward. They failed publicly. They got laughed at, questioned, criticized, and kept showing up. You're not missing confidence. You're missing reps. You're waiting to feel ready for something that only readiness builds. The hard truth is this: confidence doesn't come from thinking about doing the thing. It comes from doing the thing poorly. At first, awkwardly in the middle, and eventually with excellence. Start while your voice shakes. Start when your hands sweat. Start while your heart races. Because courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of it. And the beautiful part: With each small action, you collect evidence. Evidence that says, I did that. And that evidence becomes your self-trust. Stack enough of it, and you'll stop needing permission. That's real confidence, not hype, not noise. Just proof, built over. Time, step 20. Energy management is the new productivity hack. People love to talk about time management, hourly planners, Pomodoro timers, block scheduling. But here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't need more time. You're just mismanaging your energy, because you can sit at your desk for 8 hours and get nothing meaningful done, or lock in for 90 high-energy minutes and move your entire life forward. Energy is the real currency of transformation, yet we give it away without question. You give your peak brain hours to doom scrolling. You give your freshest morning energy to answering other people's problems. You schedule deep work in your most distracted time of day and then blame yourself for not being productive. You're not lazy. You're leaking energy, and it's killing your clarity. Start tracking it. When do your ideas flow? When does your body crash? When does your soul feel most alive? Reschedule your life around that, not some arbitrary time grid. Guard your peak energy windows like treasure. Say no to anything that drains you before noon. Create boundaries around shallow tasks. Give your most powerful self the stage it deserves. Because time doesn't guarantee impact, but focused, aligned energy that creates quantum leaps. Asterisk step 21. Simplicity is a superpower, not a step back. We love complexity. It feels smart. It feels impressive. But here's the truth. No one tells you complexity is where progress goes to die. When your system is too complicated, your goals too cluttered, your life too loud, you stall. Simplicity, on the other hand, is power. And it takes courage to choose it. Because simplicity means saying no to all the things that look productive but aren't. It means narrowing your focus until one thing becomes clear, and that's terrifying for most people. Why? Because if we simplify and still fail, we have nothing to hide behind. But here's the reality. Every successful person you admire, they've simplified. They've found their core priority and made it sacred. They do fewer things, but they do them better, deeper, more consistently. They don't scatter energy across 10 tasks. They go all in on one mission. So if you're overwhelmed right now, ask yourself, what's the one thing I need to focus on today? What's the noise I can cut out? What if progress doesn't mean adding more but subtracting the unnecessary? Don't mistake simplicity for smallness. It's not playing small, it's playing sharp. And sharpness cuts through noise better than hustle ever could. Step 22. Consistency is how you build self-belief. Keep waiting for motivation to strike like lightning. But the truth is, motivation is a mood, and moods are unreliable. What builds lasting momentum isn't inspiration, it's consistency. Day in, day out. Doing the work even when you're not in the mood. It sounds boring, but it's magic. Why? Because every small task you complete becomes evidence. Evidence that you're the kind of person who shows up, and that evidence compounds into belief. Suddenly, you're not hoping you'll change, you're proving it. Think of a bricklayer. One brick feels like nothing, but brick after brick, the wall takes shape. You won't feel the shift day 1, but day 30. Day 100, you won't recognize yourself. The problem is, most people give up too soon. They confuse discomfort with failure. They think if it's not flashy, it's not working. But the real transformation is quiet. It happens in the early mornings, the skipped distractions, the journal entry you almost didn't write. You want confidence. Show up when it's hard. Show up when no one claps. Show up when it feels pointless. Because showing up is how you become the person worth believing in. Step 23. Your growth lives inside better questions. Everyone's chasing answers. The right strategy, the perfect hack, the magic method. But very few people stop to ask, am I even asking the right question? That's where true transformation starts, not in answers, but in inquiry. You see, your brain is a problem-solving machine. It will find an answer to whatever question you feed it. So if your question is, why do I suck at this? Your brain will hand you a list of flaws. But ask instead, what skill am I one step away from mastering? And your entire mental landscape changes. High-growth people don't ask average questions. They ask stretch questions. What belief is quietly limiting me? What's the truth I'm afraid to admit? If I had to solve this in 24 hours, what would I do? These questions cut deeper than any tutorial because they confront you. They challenge your assumptions, and they force your brain to stretch. If you feel stuck, don't look for a new plan. Ask a better question. The answers will come not from outside you, but from the wisdom you've been avoiding inside you all along. Step 24. Isolation isn't noble, it's limiting. You've been taught that strength means going it alone. Grind in silence. Move in secret. Don't tell anyone what you're building. But what if that mindset is actually holding you back? Growth isn't a solo sport, it's a contact game. And if you're doing it alone, you're not heroic, you're slowing down. The people who evolve fastest don't hide. They share. They ask. They surround themselves with expanders, people who stretch their standards, challenge their limits, and remind them what's possible. And here's the raw truth. Your silence might feel safe, but it's also keeping you small. Because isolation breeds insecurity. When you're alone with your thoughts too long, doubt multiplies. Your goals feel too big. Your ideas feel ridiculous. Not because they are, but because you've got no one reflecting back possibility. So here's your permission. Stop pretending you've got it all figured out. Find a circle, a group, even one person who thinks boldly. Get in the room where people are building. Share your goals out loud, not for validation, for accountability. You don't need hundreds, you need a few real ones. Because learning alone can spark progress, but learning together, that's what sparks transformation. Step 25. Your inputs build your identity in silence. You think your identity is shaped by your choices, and that's partly true. But what's even more powerful than your choices are your inputs. The things you consume when no one's watching, the articles you skim, the videos you binge, the people you follow, those are shaping you, quietly, relentlessly. And over time, those inputs calcify into beliefs. Watch chaos long enough, and your nervous system will normalize stress. Follow people who gossip all day, and your brain will become wired for drama. But flip the switch. Follow builders, learn from thinkers. Absorb energy from people who radiate clarity, and guess what happens? You rise to meet them. Because here's the truth. You are what you revisit, not what you read once, not what you heard in passing, but you feed your mind again and again, becomes the lens through which you see yourself. So be ruthless. Unfollow noise. Block distractions. Curate your feed like your future depends on it, because it does. Your inputs aren't entertainment, they're nutrition. Feed your mind like it matters, because it's becoming you. 26 rituals beat motivation every single time. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. One day you feel inspired, the next you feel numb. One moment you're ready to conquer the world, the next you want to disappear under the covers. That's not weakness, it's being human. But here's what separates those who build from those who binge. Rituals. The high performers of the world don't rely on willpower, they rely on systems. Simple, repeatable signals that say to the brain, it's time. It could be something as ordinary as lighting a candle, pouring a cup of coffee, putting on headphones, or opening the same journal. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it's consistent. That your brain knows when this happens, we focus. When this happens, we show up. It turns effort into automaticity. The best rituals aren't flashy. They're quiet, private, intentional. And over time, they become sacred not because they're magical, but because they trigger momentum. If you keep waiting to feel ready, you'll keep delaying your evolution. So stop negotiating with your emotions. Build a ritual. Make it easy to start. Make it impossible to ignore, because rituals create rhythm, and rhythm creates transformation. Step 27. What you measure defines what you master. Everyone tracking something. Followers, likes, sales, steps. But very few people are tracking what actually matters. Effort, growth, resilience. The invisible wins. The stuff that doesn't get posted. And because of that, they keep chasing surface-level success while neglecting the foundation. Want to know why you feel stuck, even though you're doing so much? It's because you're measuring noise. And when you measure noise, you miss the real progress. You think nothing's working. But what if it is, and you're just not tracking it? What if your ability to sit with discomfort has increased? What if your ability to recover from failure is stronger? What if your journal entries are getting clearer, your focus tighter, your habits more automatic? That's the growth that moves mountains. But no one claps for that. No algorithm rewards that. So you have to reward yourself. Track your energy. Track your courage. Track your ability to stay present in the hard moments. Because what you track, you train. And what you train, you master. Stop living for metrics that don't reflect your mission. Define your own scoreboard. And don't just look at how far you have to go look at how far you've come. That's what fuels the next step forward. Step 28. Boredom isn't failure. It's the gateway to mastery. We've been conditioned to fear boredom, to see it as a red flag, to signal that something's wrong. The moment boredom creeps in, we reach for stimulation, scroll, snack, switch. But what if boredom isn't a problem? What if it's a threshold? A doorway between mediocrity and mastery? Here's the truth. The early stages of growth feel exciting. Everything is new. Every step is dopamine. But then comes the plateau, the repetition, the grind, the quiet. And that's when most people quit. Not because they're incapable, but because they mistook boredom for failure. But the greats, they leaned in, they kept going, because they knew boredom is where the real work begins. The deeper insights, the refined movements, the breakthroughs that only reveal themselves to the patient. You don't become elite by being entertained. You become elite by staying present in the parts that feel dull. You meditate through the noise. You train through the flatline. You write the 100th paragraph that no one will read end till one day it lands. If you feel bored, you're not broken. You're entering the zone where average ends and mastery begins. Step 29. One missed day isn't failure, it's feedback. We love to start strong. New habit, new goal, new plan. But the second we miss a day, we collapse. We spiral. We call it a failure and throw everything away. Why? Because we've been taught that consistency means perfection. But it doesn't. Real consistency means resilience. It means you can miss a day or even a weekend, come back. Not with shame, but with grace. The people who build long-term change aren't the ones who never slip. They're the ones who recover without punishing themselves. They understand momentum isn't about never falling. It's about never quitting. One skipped journal entry doesn't erase your self-awareness. One skipped workout doesn't cancel your discipline. What matters is the story you tell yourself. After the break, Is it I failed? I always do. Or is it I'm human and I'm back? Recovery is a skill. Forgiveness is a strength. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to reset. Just don't let temporary lapses become permanent regret. Miss a day, but don't miss your comeback. Step 30. Your future self is already. Watching, there's a version of you out there, a future self, watching this very moment unfold like a movie. That version. They're stronger, clearer, more grounded, more alive. They don't want perfection from you. They just want movement. They're begging you, don't abandon me. Don't let distraction, doubt, or delay steal our potential. Every hard choice you make today echoes into their life. Every time you push through discomfort, you give them freedom. And here's the hardest part. No one will thank you right now. No one will applaud your effort in private. But that future version of you, they will live with the consequences of your choices. And they will either carry your regret or your reward. So when you're tempted to quit, remember this. Someone's already living in the world your choices are building. And you get to decide what kind of world that is. Not through massive decisions, but through daily, ordinary, powerful action. Because the future isn't some distant place you arrive at. It's something you build choice by choice, moment by moment. And today, you get to build on purpose. Final chapter. This is the line in the sand. Let's pause. Not to look back with regret, but to look forward with intention. You've just walked through 30 powerful, layered, and at times uncomfortable steps. Not just motivational lines, but mental rewires, truths, systems, challenges, each one aimed at disrupting the sleep mode you didn't even realize you were stuck in. And if you're feeling heavy right now, good. That weight. That's not guilt. That's awakening. Because the most dangerous place to live is in that gray zone between knowing and doing. Between wanting more and acting like less. But now, that zone has been exposed. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unhear the parts that hit you in the gut. You can't pretend you didn't feel a spark, maybe just for a second, that said, "This could be the version of me I've been starving to meet." And here's the uncomfortable truth most people will avoid. You don't need another mentor. You don't need another app. You don't need another second-guessing loop of, "Am I ready?" You're not waiting on life anymore. Life has been waiting on you. Let's be real, this world doesn't slow down. It distracts, it tempts. It rewards comfort and punishes reflection. But you stopped. You sat with the discomfort. You chose to face the questions most people never dare ask. That already makes you different. But now it's time to act different. Because understanding isn't transformation. Reflection isn't results. Only one thing closes the gap between the life you want and the life you're currently tolerating. Execution. You don't need to walk away and implement all 30 steps tomorrow. That's not the assignment. The assignment is to pick one. Just one. One belief to burn. One habit to protect. 1 hour to make sacred. One standard to never lower again, no matter who leaves. You don't need to become a brand new person overnight, but you do need to become braver than the version of you that keeps defaulting to delay the next chapter of your life. It won't write itself. It's built moment by moment, choice by choice, hour by protected hour, and while the rest of the world keeps scrolling, waiting for someday to show up. You just took a step. In fact, you took 30, and here's the part no one will tell you. There won't be cheering. There won't be fireworks. The world won't pause and say, "Look at her becoming." But one day, in a year, or 2, or 5, you'll wake up and realize you don't think the way you used to. You don't fall for the same traps. You don't shrink in the face of pressure. You don't abandon yourself when it gets hard, Because the version of you who started this video, she got interrupted, and the version finishing it, she's rewriting the story. So let's end this clearly. You've got the insights. You've got the strategy. You've got the permission. You've got the proof. Now it's time to move. Not perfectly, not loudly, just consistently, quietly, courageously. And before you close this tab, ask yourself, what's one truth I heard today that I can no longer ignore? Write it, speak it, live it, because one day your future self will thank you. And you'll smile, knowing it all started here, not with more hype, but with a decision to grow when no one was watching. This was more than just a video. This was the line in the sand. And now, you cross it.